Hello and welcome to another video. In this one, we're going to be talking about a feature that was removed before Python 3.12 landed. I'm very glad that I did not record my usual what's new video because I would have had to amend it. However, even if I would have recorded that video, I would have had a section about how I would never use this feature, so I'm very glad it got removed. Anyway, the TLDR is a piece of functionality was added to Python that made it work very much like JavaScript objects in a rather problematic way, and then was merged quickly. But anyway, we'll jump into it. I'll show you how it worked and how the general object model in Python works and why this sort of violated the general expectation that you have with Python. All right, so in Python, there tend to be basically two ways to hold data. You either have an object, which you access with dotted attributes, or you have a dictionary, which you access with keyed attributes. In JavaScript, they're roughly the same. So in Python, I'll just give you some silly examples. So you have a dictionary, it has keys, and those keys can have values. And to access them, you access them with square brackets and use the same key to access those values. If you were to do x.foo, that does not work. It does not have an attribute foo, it has a key foo. Now, if you have a class, class name D that does self.x equals x, and if you construct this, you can do d.x. You can't do d square bracket x. The keyed namespaces and the dotted namespaces are kept separate. And this is a useful distinction. The keyed namespaces tend to represent either loosely structured or unstructured data, whereas dotted access tends to represent structured data. You have an actual object that has a well-known shape and a well-known set of attributes versus a dictionary that you can kind of stuff anything into it. But anyway, that's just kind of the background on this. What was added to 3.12, and actually I have an old enough version that still has this functionality. I have beta 3. I believe it was removed in beta 4. Not sure about that. But anyway, this class is added to the JSON module, which already is a little bit strange, but the rationale for this kind of makes sense why it was added there. And it was this class called AttrDict. From JSON import AttrDict. And what AttrDict does is it allows you to make a dictionary that looks like a dictionary, but is allowed to be accessed with dotted attribute access. The rationale for this being if you have a deeply nested JSON object, I don't know, a to this. Can I write JSON properly in a string? JSON.loads s. So if you were to get this normally, you would get an object back that's a dictionary, and you would have to access each of these attributes to get to the inner part. And it was noted that this is a little bit tedious. However, I think this is good that it's tedious because this is not a structured object. This is, again, an unstructured dictionary. However, if you were to use object pairs hook, I think that's what it is. If you were using object pairs hook, you now have an object which looks like a dictionary, but you can now access dotted attributes to get to the inner part. And this was seen as, I don't know, a cool toy. However, I'm of the opinion that it violates kind of the object structure of Python. Now, this implementation had a few problems. One of the problems that was pointed out during the beta period was that it was a little bit inconsistent with some of the things that it has. For instance, if you were to dotted access any of the methods that are normally on a dictionary, you're going to get those methods back, even if you were to assign to them. You still cannot retrieve them in the same way that you're assigning them. So it leaves an inconsistency in how the object works. But the thing that I thought was the funniest is the issue for this was opened on August of 2022, and the core dev who made the issue also made the pull request for this on the same day. You'll notice that no one reviewed it, and it was merged quickly afterwards. This was basically the span of a single weekend. And this is not in and of itself a problem. There are not enough core devs to maintain cpython. A lot of development that goes on in cpython is, completely unreviewed, and goes directly to the primary branch. It passes tests, but it often is completely unreviewed. And this is just, the fact of cpython being a very, very large project. A lot of the modules in the standard library don't have active maintainers or maintainers at all. And so patches often go in without any sort of review. And that's just kind of normal. However, the problem that I see with this is that it was a brand new piece of functionality. It didn't go through any sort of PEP process or review or anything like that. And it was merged by the original issue and author without any sort of review there. And other people felt similarly. There was some response to this issue that was like, hey, we probably shouldn't add this. Only open for a few days, no input from others, no consensus on this. There were some references to some really old threads on the Python ideas mailing list, which I don't think that's enough precedence to go forward with a new functionality. And there was, a decent amount of back and forth about this. But I think the main consensus from almost all of the core devs on this was that we shouldn't be adding something like this to the standard library without further conversation on this. The phrase that I like to use for this, and it wasn't actually specified here, is that no is temporary, but yes is forever. And this is especially true with cpython, where if you add something to the standard library, it may be convenient, but it's something that you're going to have to support, you're going to have to maintain, and you're going to have to keep essentially forever. And this did not seem like functionality that gelled nicely with the rest of the standard library, and so is a bit messy to keep in there. Not to mention, there are other ways to accomplish this without needing anything new. For instance, in the types module, there is simple namespace, and simple namespace is similar to this AttrDict simple namespace, which takes a certain number of attributes and will build a object from it. So for instance, so we do this and we do o.x and o.y. We get an object that has, somewhat unstructured keys, and you can use this with object pairs hook. Let's see if we do this again. I think you have to do lambda adders to simple namespace. Star adders, something like this. Oops, attrs. Argument must be a mapping, not a list. Dict adders? Yeah, there we go. Okay, so we are able to get the same sort of result here by using simple namespace. A little bit clunkier, copy a dict, splat it into simple namespace. But it is existing functionality. If somebody wanted this, they can already access it. And they don't need this weird class that sort of acts like a dict. And also, you'll see here that, even though we're getting dotted access here, it doesn't have both. And we still have that, separation from structured and unstructured. Again, this is unstructured, but a little bit weird. I already know there's going to be somebody in the comments who's going to be like, oh, but pandas does this, and pandas is great. I actually think this is one of the worst features of pandas because it blurs the lines between the two object models. Pandas is often used as a convenience library, especially in data science. And I mean, I don't want to say that, data science is not always pure from a software standpoint, because there's no such thing as purity in a software standpoint. But pandas be pandas. We'll leave it at that. But anyway, this was reverted relatively recently in the beta period. And you'll see that, there was overwhelming support for the revert here. So glad this is out. Glad this is not in 3.12. And once it gets to release candidate, you'll be seeing a video from me about all the brand new features of 3.12. But anyway, hopefully you found this useful. If there are additional things you would like me to explain, leave a comment below or reach out to me on the various platforms. But thank you all for watching, and I will see you in the next one.